to close the gap. So to conclude, with climate action, we see that there's a surplus of challenges around the world, but there's a deficit of trust at COPs. This collaboration amongst African nations and the Netherlands builds trust. What water is for adaptation, trust is for collaboration. African nations can count on our support now and in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, His Royal Highness Prince Jemmy Dibu, representing the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte. Thank you for your leadership. And the Prince has said 90% of water, of adaptation is water. What the high-level panel has found out is also as you'll see in the report, is that 90% of finance can be mobilized from within Africa, from domestic revenue. So thank you very much, Your Excellency. Commissioner, it is my pleasure to invite you to come and invite the representative of His Excellency Macky Sall to deliver a statement.
Thank you, the director of the ceremony. Once again, good afternoon. Let me acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Masisi, the President of the Republic of Botswana. You are welcome, sir, and thank you for your commitment for the African agenda. Thank you. Now I have the honor to invite the Minister of Environment of the Republic of Senegal, that is representing President Macky Sall, to come and deliver his statement. Vous avez la parole.
I speak in French. No problem. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, I have to do this? No? It's okay. Monsieur le Président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Mesdames, Messieurs les membres du panel, Mesdames et Messieurs, je vais donc vous transmettre le message du président Macky Sall, président de la République du Sénégal, qui devait être ici et qui a des difficultés. S'il faut une traduction, juste à côté. Please, just, I have one. Okay. I'm sorry, Excellency. Donc, je vais vous transmettre le message assez concis du président de la République du Sénégal, son Excellence M. Macky Sall. Mesdames et Messieurs, je vous remercie vivement et remercie les Émirats arabes unis pour avoir placé la problématique de l'eau au cœur des activités de la COP28. J'aimerais également féliciter les gouvernements des Pays-Bas et du Tadjikistan, co-organisateurs de la conférence des Nations Unies sur l'eau de mars 2023. L'eau est aujourd'hui plus que jamais un indicateur essentiel du réchauffement climatique. Les sécheresses, les inondations et les pénuries d'eau récurrentes dans nos villes et nos campagnes nous rappellent au quotidien la nécessité absolue d'agir pour la sauvegarder et protéger cette ressource. Lors de l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies en septembre dernier, le panel a lancé la campagne de mobilisation des ressources intitulée Mind the Gap Investment in Water. Notre objectif est de doubler les investissements actuels dans le secteur de l'eau sur le continent afin de réunir les 30 milliards de dollars US nécessaires chaque année pour atteindre l'objectif de développement durable numéro 6 en Afrique. C'est dans la même dynamique que nous lançons aujourd'hui le plan d'action pour l'investissement du panel de haut niveau qui présente des mesures concrètes pour mobiliser les investissements en faveur de la sécurité de l'eau en Afrique. Au titre des actions préconisées par le plan d'investissement dans l'eau, je relève donc 4 priorités. Promouvoir des plateformes continentales et nationales qui mettent en relation les sources de financement avec les projets porteurs d'investissement dans l'eau. Renforcer le cadre juridique et réglementaire de façon à faciliter l'investissement dans l'eau. Promouvoir davantage l'accès aux ressources publiques de financement des projets d'eau et assainissement, souvent très coûteux. Et quatrièmement, enfin, renforcer les systèmes de données et d'information afin que le progrès puisse être suivi et évalué. Pour prendre en charge ces priorités, nous avons besoin de la collaboration de tous, partenaires publics comme privés, afin de réaliser notre objectif ultime, l'accès universel à l'eau et à l'assainissement. Je vous remercie, c'était le message assez concis que je devais vous transmettre de la part du président Macky Sall, le président de la République du Sénégal. Merci, Excellence.
Je vous remercie, the representative, President Macky Sall. Thank you very much for that speech. I think Your Excellency Commissioner, I do understand that His Excellency, the President of Kenya, will be coming in any moment. But in the meantime, I have the honor to invite you to invite the President of Botswana to give his keynote statement.
Thank you, the director of the ceremony. It is my privilege and honor to invite His Excellency Dr. Masisi to deliver his statement and also to launch the investment action plan, the water investment action plan. Over to you, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. Your Royal Highness, Prince Jamie de Borden de Parme, the envoy of the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Honorable Minister for Environment, representing His Excellency President Macky Sall of Senegal, and co-chair, Chair of the African Union, former Chair of the African Union. I'm not sure if the representative of President Gengob here. If any, I recognize you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I'm honored to be part of this launch of the high-level panel Water Investment Action Plan. Let me start by congratulating the co-chairs of the high-level panel for their outstanding leadership and commitment to mobilize water investments for Africa. The event today confirms why, during the UN 2023 Water Conference, in my capacity as chair of the Global Water Changemakers Awards, I conferred Presidential Changemakers Awards to the 4 co-chairs of the high-level panel, as well as 2 presidents for launching their country water investment programs. The high-level panel, Africa Water Investment Panel, we're launching today, will assist countries to mobilize at least $30 billion annually by 2030 for the achievement of water-related SDG targets on the continent. The investment plan proposed to mobilize at least 30% of the $30 billion from institutional investors, pension funds, and innovative financing. Ladies and gentlemen, to support the panel, mobilize these investments, I am pleased to confirm that my government is in the process of developing and implementing Botswana Water Investment Program intended to be resourced by sourcing external funding and also committing some domestic resources. Co-chairs, excellencies, and distinguished guests, our national vision as Botswana relating to the provision of water is to increase water security and provide adequate as well as equitable sanitation for all citizens. I'm happy to say that Botswana is making significant strides towards ensuring water security, as it is central to climate change adaptation and open more economic opportunities as the country is embarking on key priorities such as export-led growth, building human capital, provision of appropriate infrastructure, and efficient financing. It is therefore important to ensure that the existing and future infrastructure is capable and resilient to convey bulk water supply and sanitation services to high-demand centers which include local and international water transfer schemes and storage infrastructure. Botswana has over the years made tremendous progress in the provision of potable water to its citizens. Our budget allocation towards water and sanitation infrastructure stands at 29% of the annual national budget. This has increased access to potable water by 98% at the national level. This has been possible through the development of appropriate policies and strategies. I must emphasize that the investment in water and sanitation infrastructure and services cannot be left to government alone. In this respect, the private sector should also play its part in supporting efforts aimed at addressing water and sanitation challenges in Africa. The participation of the private sector in the provision of water and sanitation services will contribute immensely to the noble work of the Africa Water Investment Program of mobilizing $30 billion for supporting Sustainable Development Goal 6 investments, which will create 5 million jobs by 2030, amongst others. As chair of the Global Water Changemaker Awards, I am committed to policies and strategies that promote the most promising climate-resilient innovations with the greatest potential for scale and replication. I am pleased to announce that as chair of the Global Water Changemakers, in collaboration with the conveners of the Changemakers, we will support the high-level panel investment plan to mobilize resources from institutional investors and sovereign wealth funds by championing the establishment of a global finance hub for small states or on institutional investors, with Botswana as the African hub. To promote the most promising climate-resilient innovations for water security, I am pleased to announce the winners of the 2023 Water Changemakers Innovation Awards as follows. A, the Inclusion Award, Virtual Irrigation Academy of Australia. The innovation of Virtual Academy is an innovative technology focusing on small-scale farmers who are the most vulnerable. The innovation promotes inclusion because it caters for vulnerable small-scale farmers. And B, the Scalability Award. It goes to NXTLVL Water, the product of NXTLVL of the Philippines, matches the existing geography and population of the country. The innovation is scalable and can provide the islands of the Philippines with water. Applause, applause. And C, Innovation Award, CAST Co. of the Republic of Korea. The innovation promotes water conservation through an innovative approach that uses oxygen and microplasma sterilization instead of water, and has the potential to be scaled to other parts of the world. These winners and other competitors will be matched with investors to scale up their innovations. Yes? Finally, Yes, we're hitting the graveyard shift. Finally, I'm pleased to confer Mrs. Sawyer Anderson from Waterworks in the United States of America with the Chair's Innovation, Diversity, and Inclusion Award for mobilizing funding for providing water to rural areas at the young age of 14 years old. I also recognize Electronic Design Innovation Center, EDIC, or EDIC, at the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka, as the winner of the South Asia Youth Champion Award. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, President Masisi, a global leader, as well as also a champion of innovation. And I think he's welcomed the launch of the High-Level Panel Investment Action Plan. And thank you also, Your Excellency, for conferring to the High-Level Panel co-chairs the awards during the UN Water Conference. So we are very grateful for your leadership. And we also welcome the news of Botswana being the Africa hub of the institutional investors and sovereign wealth funds for small states, because I think some of you might be aware that small states constitute about 75% of the United Nations member states, which is countries below the population of 10 million. And small states globally have the highest capital in terms of institutional and sovereign wealth funds. They include Saudi Arabia, Norway, Botswana as well with your Pula Fund, and many others. So we are very excited about this. Why are we excited? Because the high-level panel report says that 10 billion of the 30 billion that needs to be mobilized will have to come from institutional investors. And this is what the AUDA NEPAD has been championing for some time, which is called the 5% agenda. So we're very excited. So for now, Commissioner, I have the pleasure to invite you to come and help us with a statement from the United Nations of support for the launch. Thank you. From Amina. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So a statement from the United Nations. It's a pre-recorded statement, it's a video. Our IT, if you can kindly play the video statement from the United Nations of support to the African Union for their work on the high-level panel investment plan. If we can up the volume and start from the beginning.
The Africa Water Investment Action.
Okay.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join you at the launch of the Africa Water Investment Action Plan. While our world is facing multiple interconnected crises, we must not overlook the pressing issue of water scarcity, particularly in Africa, which hosts the largest number of people with no access to basic drinking water and sanitation services. Over 1.7 billion people lack basic sanitation, and millions of women and girls spend hours every day fetching water. Globally, 1 in every 4 people on Earth still lives without safely managed water services or clean drinking water. We need to act for a water-secured future for Africa and for the world. At our last meeting during the 2023 UNGA, we agreed to commit to minding the gap for investments in water in Africa. To facilitate this shift, let's recall that the forward-looking actions of the 2023 UN Water Conference held in March this year. First, we must create an environment enabling Africa to mobilize domestic and international investments to meet its vision of $30 billion annually by 2030. As noted in your investment action plan, at least 90% of finance can be accessed from domestic resources by improving the environment for investments, water governance, and efficient delivery of water services, among others. The shifts we need must start at the domestic level, with support from the international community. Second, as the Secretary-General said, we must close the water management gap. Governments must develop and implement integrated and inclusive plans that ensure equitable water access for all people while conserving this precious resource. Countries can engage with the United Nations country teams to strengthen knowledge sharing around water management and to work collaboratively across borders to jointly manage water. Third, the international financial institutions play a critical role and should develop creative ways to extend financing and accelerate the reallocation of special drawing rights. The SDG stimulus and reforms to the global financial architecture aim to increase investment in sustainable development, and multilateral development banks should continue expanding their portfolios on water and sanitation to support countries that are in desperate need. The appointment of a special envoy on water to advance the prominence of water security in the lead-up to the Summit of the Future next year will also contribute to the shifts needed to balance water and human development needs. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, water and sanitation are basic human rights and serve as a bedrock for all aspects of development. SDG 6 plays a pivotal role in public health, community well-being, and the right to a clean and sustainable environment. As we gather at COP28 in Dubai, let us seek practical solutions for universal water and sanitation access in Africa, whilst considering the evolving environmental landscape. Let's build the necessary support to mainstream water into national adaptation plans and nationally determined contributions. Let us invest in a climate-resilient water sector that includes bankable projects with robust national policies, institutional regulations, and local community adaptation capacities. Let's work together to achieve SDG 6, ensuring water and sanitation for all, as we strive for a world that leaves no one behind. I look forward to hearing the results of your meeting and wish you a successful outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Great support from the United Nations. I think they have been supporting from the very beginning of this panel at the UN Water Conference, at the UN General Assembly. We have had good statements of support from the headquarters in the United Nations, and also from many UN agencies that include FAO, UNDP, and UNICEF, and they will have the opportunity to also offer their statements. Your Excellencies have been guided that it is now time to have a photo with the investment plan that you've just launched, together with some of the high-level panel speakers that are here. So a group photo right here in the front, from what I've been guided. The high-level panel representatives, and the World Bank, UNDP, and other partners who are yet to speak. Thank you, Mayor. We kindly take our seats. The event is still going on. Let me now welcome the Commissioner to lead us into the next segment. So may you kindly take your seats. The event is still going on. Over to the Commissioner.
Oh, people.
May we kindly sit down? I think the next speaker is the President of the African Ministers Council on Water, AMCO.
Amko. Please, I wanted to call you.
Just have a selfie with you.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. I know you're Minister of Water of Egypt. We met last year in COP27.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So, good afternoon. I don't think I need to do it theater style because the microphone is now working. So, Your Excellency, the chairperson of the AUC, it is really my ultimate pleasure to be here, and also it's a great honor to be among the Honorable Excellencies for the second time after our gathering at the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, where the inauguration summit of the high-level panel on water has taken place. During this year, I had the privilege to chair 2 ministerial sessions as AMCO president. First was during the March UN 2023 Water Conference, and second on the sideline of Africa Climate Summit last September, where the acceleration of climate resilience, water action has been underscored. And this time is to witness with you a very important moment in the water sector in Africa, the launching of the Africa Water Investment Action Plan, aiming to mobilize financial resources for implementation priority projects under the wise guidance of our African and international leaders. Each one of us has a pivotal role to play for a successful implementation of the proposed action towards a sustainable climate resilient and bankable investment in the water and sanitation sector in Africa. This will serve the achievement of Africa Water Vision 2025 and beyond, the Sustainable Development Goals, especially goal number 6 on water and sanitation, and the African Union Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. This great endeavor comes in a very critical time where the COVID-19 pandemic confirmed the ultimate importance of developing the water and sanitation services in Africa. Moreover, applying the water, food, and energy and the environment nexus approach is becoming a necessity not only in Africa but worldwide, which makes it important to change the narrative and create an enabling environment for water investment by establishing cross-sectorial political leadership at the highest level, with commitment to sustainably increase public budgets and allocations. It is high time to move from policy to action for the welfare of our people, and I was very pleased to know that during the preparation of this investment action plan, 53 projects with a combined investment value of up to 27 billion US dollar were submitted by 19 countries for AIB assessment, in addition to 9 billion US dollars from 15 transboundary BIDA projects. Among them, Egypt has also submitted a number of investment projects on both the national and the regional levels. And I'm full of hope that some of them will be selected through the scorecards selection process, and I encourage all African countries to submit their project proposal while we confirm the importance of strong coordination and consultation during the selection process of AIB projects to ensure that all projects are agreed upon from all involved countries. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since Egypt assumed presidency of the AMCAO in February 2023, and where we have been keen to work closely with all partners, with all African partners and Secretariat of High-Level Panel in finalizing the action plan. It is worth to mention the importance of capacity building that is a critical factor in addressing these challenges and empowering young African engineers to become leaders in the field and enable them to manage such investments. As water and climate-related challenges are complex and dynamic, requiring innovative and creative solutions, capacity building for young African engineers is a critical investment in the future of the continent. Against this background, through the COP27 Water Initiative AWARE, Egypt has devoted its training center and inaugurated the Pan-Africa Center for Water Adaptation. This was a support from the Egyptian government to all the African continent to build the capacity of the engineers, as I mentioned before. But also we do have a very interesting good practice in terms of national platforms, as action number 1 is mentioning, encouraging national platforms to have a kind of matching supply and demand, funding supply at the national level, funding demand at the national level, and supply coming from internally or externally. We do have the NWAFI platform in Egypt, which is also supporting the nexus between water, energy, and food, and we would love to transfer this experience to other African brothers and sisters and countries, because really we do have very good experience with this platform that I mentioned. Finally, I would like to applaud all the efforts exerted by the high-level technical team and the GAP for producing this action plan, and we are looking forward for more successful achievement to raise Africa water agenda high in the international community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, President of AMCAO. We can assure you that my department is fully engaged to work with you, and we've been working very well with the Secretariat of AMCAO. And thank you for all the support you're giving the Sub-Saharan Africa in the matter of water. Water is an important resources that we cannot undermine it. So thank you very much, and we'll look forward to continue our good collaboration in the name of our Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. So I will now have the pleasure to invite I think World Bank. No, I don't think the World Bank. Well, let me invite Dr. Pradeep. I don't know if he's around. He's the director. Executive Coordinator of UNDP. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you here. I'm not going to take a lot of time except to perhaps reflect on a few ideas that perhaps may be worthy of consideration as we try and scale up climate finance. At the end of the day, I think we all recognize that the amount of financing that's necessary to try and address the many needs around water is quite significant, and public finance alone isn't going to do it. Yes, we have been successful in supporting a number of countries to access existing grant funding from various UNFCCC instruments such as the Global Environment Facility and the Green Climate Fund. But at the end of the day, this is just a drop in the ocean compared to what is needed. So the reality here is, how do we ensure that the available grant funding can leverage, mobilize, scale up, and crowd in the trillions of private finance that's available. And we're not going to be able to do that simply by trying to coalesce much more public money. We have to actually get the enabling environment right. And I think in that context, a number of us here in this room, I think, need to come together to not only ensure that that enabling environment is addressed in the way that it needs to be, but it is also concurrently done in such a way that private finance does flow to where it's needed. And right now, we see that that is not happening. I was recently actually in Comoros, where we were looking at ways to increase water supply in a country where there's a significant number of the population that currently does not have potable water. And the fact that UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, was addressing this issue through one single project, through the Green Climate Fund, really surprised me. It shocked me. Why is it, how is it that we have come to a point where you need one project to get potable drinking water to nearly 60–70% of the population? It shouldn't be like that in 2023. And the question here is, why has it taken so long? I think part of the problem is that we're not coming together in the way that we need to, and fast enough and sequentially, in order to trigger the kind of investments that's needed. So I hope this initiative, beyond the scaling up of funding and coalescing partnerships, really makes us work together to ensure that the kinds of public-private partnerships that we need do materialize when they're needed, particularly to address last-mile issues. UNDP stands committed to support AIP, to build on the partnership that we already have. We've supported with a feasibility to try and ensure that this fund goes beyond what it's aiming for and leverages the kind of financing that's needed. And we very much look forward to building on the $300 million worth of projects that we will be initiating in Africa this year and next year, so that we can scale up over and beyond the 30 billion. Thank you very much.
I now have the privilege to invite Mr. Sajok Kumar, Global Director of the World Bank, representing the President of the World Bank. You're welcome. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Madam Commissioner and Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm very happy to be in the Africa Pavilion. And I'm very happy that you put the spotlight on water during the COP28 in the Africa Pavilion. Very happy about it. And I'll tell you why. So I started this job last year, about this time, and I was looking at the data coming from UNICEF and WHO under the Joint Monitoring Program. The statistics is very clear that Africa is the only continent where the access gap in terms of access to water supply and sanitation is widening, it's not closing. In 2020, you had 37 million more people without access to clean water than 2000. And in a business as usual scenario, we will have more than 300 million people without access to drinking water by 2030. So something is really not going well. So I'm very happy that you put together this investment plan and the high-level panel really to support more investment going in this sector, which we really welcome from the World Bank side. And I think we really have a problem that needs to be addressed as a top priority, because you cannot have sustainable development and future of the continent without access to clean drinking water and sanitation. So this has to be the #1 priority for the leaders of Africa, and I'm very happy about it. My second point is about, even though Africa is facing a daunting challenge of closing the gap, Africa is also delivering innovations. There are innovations happening in Africa in access to water supply, sanitation, better management of water resources that other continents can learn. You see, what progress that Africa has made, for example, let's say in Tanzania, in access to drinking water supply and sanitation, financing innovations in Angola using guarantee programs to mobilize more than $1 billion from the commercial market at commercial terms to invest in water supply and sanitation. The PPP models from Senegal, from Benin, there are just so many innovations happening in Africa. And I was in Addis Ababa where Ethiopian government had hosted a leadership summit of all the finance ministers and water ministers from East and Southern Africa. And this was the topic of discussion as to how do we really advance access to water supply and sanitation as a high priority, and how do we learn from each other, because there's so much innovation happening in Africa. So I think I want to remind everybody in the audience here and people online that Africa is also delivering innovations which can be useful to other countries among the countries in Africa, but also to other continents. And I think the need for knowledge exchange is extremely important in this area. Finally, on the World Bank itself, and I was looking at the numbers, as we speak, the World Bank, which is the IDA, International Development Association, if you look at the financing, in African countries alone today, the net commitment in water supply and sanitation is about $13.5 billion. This is the size of the projects currently under implementation by your governments, by your cities, by your municipalities. So which is quite substantial. Last year, the World Bank increased financing for water by $2.5 billion, and most of that increase last year came from investments in Africa. Massive increase in investment in Africa. So African countries are making the right choice, and the World Bank is stepping up to provide more financing available to the countries. But I also want to add here that we would like all the multilateral development banks to do more on water. And in preparation for this COP, all the multilateral development banks have come together on a joint platform for financing water. And in about half an hour's time, in about an hour's time, in the Leaders Summit on Water, the President of the Islamic Development Bank will be delivering a statement on behalf of all the MDBs to increase the commitment of all the banks for financing water supply, sanitation, water resource management programs. And we are very excited about it, which essentially means that the African countries can really rely on MDBs as their partners for bringing really more financing in this sector. The last point I want to make is that the point our UNDP colleague just made. I think we really have to rely on domestic resource mobilization. We have to really address the foundational issues and really start bringing the private sector in the space where possible. And there are many innovations happening again in Africa as to how you're working with the private sector. And this is also an area where the IFC and MIGA of the World Bank Group can really be a very strong partner for the African countries. So again, please count on World Bank as you start implementing the plan. We would definitely like to do more and use our resources to leverage more resources from the private sector and other partners as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director, and thank you for your support to the water agenda.
Us in UNICEF, water is the foundation of everything. Without water, drinking water, health will not improve. Without drinking water, nutrition will not improve. Without drinking water, our school completion issues, especially for girls, will not improve. Without water, placing food on the table is not going to happen for many communities. So a few thoughts and a few messages as we conclude our sessions. One, we know that a lot of progress has been made in Africa in respect to water. I remember in my own country as I was growing up, and the important things that have happened in water, expanding water in rural parts of the country, expanding water in urban parts of the country. But we know that in Africa, on our continent, some 400 million people still don't have good access to drinking water. 400 million people. 400 million people means you take Nigeria times 2. Nigeria times 2. And they don't have good access to drinking water. So it means that there's a lot of work for us to do. Hence, the investment plan, the action plans that we are talking about become important. We know that we must emphasize drinking water, especially in our plans. I appreciate the emphasis on expanding to improve jobs and so on. But again, the emphasis on drinking water and the targets that go with these in our plans become important. We must continue to improve on our skills, our workforce in our countries. We must continue to improve on our monitoring. In UNICEF, we are happy to say that we have about 700 people deployed all across the continent to help with water and sanitation. And I know our partners, all of us have our staff there. So for us at COP today, the intersection between water and climate becomes important. Our worry is that as climate impacts come in, and we are seeing it in our countries, as climate impacts come in, tensions go up. Either through a drought or through flood, tensions increase. So we must all do our best to ensure that the necessary investments go in. Importantly, our governments, as they plan and the budget, must do their part. So to say again that we in UNICEF are excited to be part of the Mind the Gap campaign, and we look forward to working with all of you. We have been there from time immemorial, but again, 400 million people, 2 times the size of Nigeria, do not have good access to water, and many more to sanitation. The solutions are needed. Investments have to be improved, and we're happy to be part of this journey. So thank you very much, and look forward to joining with you again and again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, UNICEF, for these statistics. He's really worried because we need to speed up with our agenda of water in Africa. And we know that water is also a source of conflicts on the continent, transhumance, all these kind of conflicts. We have another event, and the president is already upstairs there. So let me just conclude with this panel. So I thank you all for your relevant and insightful contribution to this high-level panel on water investments. Investment on water are crucial to the SDG 6, if we want to achieve the SDG 6 and Agenda 2063. Thank you for the effort made to put together the high-level water investment. I thank Amkau, all the participants, all the organizers for putting this event, and that the event was really very fruitful. It is my strong belief that the investment action plan will facilitate actual investment towards bridging the huge water investment gap in Africa. With those remarks, the event is officially closed. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. In case you don't have a copy of the investment plan, it is on this
Teste, 2, teste, teste. 1, 2, 5, 7, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, let's call the meeting to order. Can you take your seat? We want to start. Time is against us. Apology for the delay, but when we have to do with Excellencies presidents, they have also pressing agenda. That's why we're a little bit delayed, but we are going to be very, very fast so that we can accomplish our mission. So the objective of this meeting is the high-level meeting event is jointly organized by the African Union Commission, the government of the Republic of Mozambique, and the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. The meeting is taking place today. We want to have start at 1 p.m., but due to pressing agenda of our principals, we are starting now here in African Pavilion. The pathway is to accelerate resilience building and reduce disaster loss by 2030. This is really the core of this meeting. We have our initiative or project, which is AMEWAS, and we really want to build capacity of this early warning and early action situation room that we have in African Union, at the headquarters of the African Union. So, Excellencies, let me acknowledge the presence of President Nyusi, who is the champion of disaster risk management for African Union, and also the President of the Republic of Mozambique. I have also my boss, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, the chairperson of the African Union Commission. So I'm sure we all have the agenda. We have the first session, the opening session. There will be a remark we will first of all give some video, I think 5-minute video of AMEWA's synopsis. I don't know if we are ready. And then we have the statement of His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, the chairperson of the African Union Commission. Then we have the statement of head of government to be confirmed. And then we have the keynote remark and launch of the African Union biannual report of DDR. Then we have a spotlight presentation, investment in hazard, early warning system at the national gaps, best practice, and opportunities of Ethiopia lesson. It will be presented by the Chief Commissioner for Disaster Risk Management Commission of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Then we have a discussion panel, increased financing for AMEWAS program and the pathway to accelerate resilience building and reduce disaster loss. Then we will continue with our program. I think in the interest of time, I will just invite, first of all, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat to deliver his statement. Excellency, the floor is yours.
Excellence Philippe Jacinto Nyusi, président de la République du Mozambique. Excellences, mesdames et messieurs, chers amis. Rien qu'en 2023, le continent africain a été frappé par différentes catastrophes extrêmes, dont un tremblement de terre, des cyclones tropicaux, des sécheresses et des inondations, entre autres. Le continent a connu plus de 3000 morts suite à un séisme au Royaume du Maroc. 6500 morts à peu près en Libye, qui a été frappée par la tempête méditerranéenne Daniel. Dans la région australe, le Mozambique, le Malawi et Madagascar ont également été touchés par le cyclone tropical Freddy, l'une des plus longues tempêtes tropicales à avoir survolé l'océan Indien. En conséquence, plus de 4,5 millions de personnes ont été touchées par le cyclone tropical Freddy et plus de 711 personnes ont perdu la vie. Des centaines d'autres ont été déclarés disparus. Ces événements extrêmes affectent les moyens de subsistance des populations à travers l'ensemble du continent. Pour contribuer au renforcement de la résilience et à la réduction des pertes dues aux catastrophes, l'Union africaine, conformément à l'agenda 2063, a mis en place la stratégie régionale africaine de réduction des risques de catastrophes. La Commission de l'Union africaine a élaboré le programme qu'on appelle Système africain d'alerte rapide et d'action rapide multirisque. Ce programme vise à assurer une meilleure coordination de la gestion des risques et des catastrophes. Le lancement de son plan d'action l'a été à l'occasion de la réunion de l'Organisation météorologique mondiale lors du sommet africain sur le climat à Nairobi, au Kenya. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, investir dans ce programme est essentiel pour sauver des vies et protéger les acquis de développement durement engagés en Afrique. Je voudrais vous remercier, Monsieur le Président de la République de Mozambique, champion de l'Union africaine pour la gestion des risques de catastrophes, pour avoir accueilli cet événement sur le financement accru du programme des systèmes d'alerte rapide et d'action rapide multirisque de l'Afrique, pour accélérer le renforcement de la résilience et réduire les risques dus à catastrophes. Je souhaite également saisir cette occasion pour saluer votre leadership, votre engagement et votre action sans faille dans la mobilisation des ressources pour la mise en œuvre de ce programme. J'appelle la communauté internationale, l'ensemble de nos partenaires, à conjuguer leurs efforts à ceux du champion pour débloquer des fonds pour ces programmes particulièrement importants pour le continent. Je voudrais saisir cette occasion pour reconnaître la contribution financière importante de nos États membres et de nos partenaires de développement pour soutenir ce programme, en particulier l'Union européenne et la Suède, ainsi que les partenaires de mise en œuvre et la Fondation de recherche CIMA. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, la Commission de l'Union africaine se félicite du partenariat et de la coopération qui sont essentiels à la réalisation de l'agenda 2063. Et je voudrais donc saisir cette occasion pour appeler tous nos partenaires à soutenir ce programme vital afin de contribuer au renforcement de la résilience et à la réduction des pertes dues aux catastrophes. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Excellence, Monsieur le Président, pour votre discours. Je voulais, sans plus tarder, inviter Son Excellence, le Président Philippe Jacinto Nyusi, Président de la République de Mozambique, et aussi le champion de management, disaster risk reduction. Monsieur le Président, je vous invite pour faire votre... I'm inviting you to come and present your keynote remarks and the launch of the African Union biannual report for DDR. Excellency, with due respect, you have the floor.
Muito obrigado. Senhor Mustafa Mohamed, presidente da Comissão da União Africana, ministros aqui presentes, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, Quero agradecer a minha irmã, que quase que não dorme, tudo a fazer para que haja tranquilidade e se mitigue os efeitos negativos das mudanças climáticas. E antes de tudo, peço que uma saudação de palma à União Africana e à nossa representação. Estou profundamente honrado em dirigir-me a esta distinta plateia, não apenas como Presidente da República de Moçambique, um país ciclicamente afetado pelos eventos extremos, mas também como campeão da União Africana para a gestão do risco de desastres. Gostaria antes, porém, de aproveitar esta oportunidade para mais uma vez publicamente expressar solidariedade às pessoas, aos governos dos Estados-membros da União Africana que perderam os seus entes queridos devido a catástrofes e diferentes desastres de magnitude e escala variadas desde o início da época chuvosa. E o Presidente da Comissão disse alguns dos países que foram afetados. Gostaria igualmente de felicitar a Comissão da União Africana e os parceiros pela criação, num curto espaço de tempo, de 4 salas de situação do sistema de alerta prévio e ação precoce para os riscos múltiplos. É uma enorme conquista, considerando o prazo e os recursos que o continente se dispõe. No último COP em Sharm el-Sheikh, no Egito, tínhamos informado que programas de HMOS, ou Programa do Sistema Africano de Alerta Prévia e Ação Antecipada para os vários tipos de ameaças, visava alcançar todas as comunidades econômicas regionais da União Africana e Estados-membros, como também assegurar a interoperacionalidade dos diferentes sistemas a nível vertical e horizontal. Na altura, também apelamos aos parceiros da África, em particular os países mais desenvolvidos, para apoiarem este programa. Hoje, voltamos a fazer o mesmo apelo para apoiar este programa que torna proativa a gestão de riscos e ativação de respostas aos riscos de desastres no continente para incrementar a resiliência e reduzir os danos e perdas. Nos últimos anos, os desastres aumentaram exponencialmente no continente africano, decorrentes das alterações climáticas. A mudança sem precedentes no clima, com a degradação ambiental causada pelo homem, aumentou a vulnerabilidade das pessoas, afetando gravemente as suas vidas e os meios de subsistência. O programa AMEOS, que visa reduzir substancialmente as perdas continentais por catástrofes até 2030, para atingir os seus objetivos, é preciso: 1. Conhecimento robusto de riscos múltiplos. 2. Capacidade de previsão, detenção, monitoria e análise. 3. Informações sobre riscos de desastres disponíveis e acessíveis ao público africano. E 4. Ter uma África preparada para desastres. Um estudo recente indica que, de 2018 a 2020, houve um aumento no número de sistemas de aviso prévio multiriscos de 61 para 81 em todo o continente africano, com uma diminuição correspondente no índice de exposição de África no mesmo período. Esta conclusão aponta para a necessidade de fortalecer o sistema africano de desvio prévio multiriscos e ação antecipada como meio de reduzir a exposição e a vulnerabilidade do nosso continente e de melhoria da resiliência das infraestruturas e o aumento da capacidade das comunidades para resistir aos impactos das catástrofes. No meu país, Moçambique, em reconhecimento da importância de ter informações fiáveis sobre o clima e tempo disponíveis a tempo para avaliar o nível de risco e vulnerabilidade e tomar as melhores decisões. Em março de 2022, lançamos uma iniciativa denominada Um Distrito, uma Estação Meteorológica, com o objetivo de construir uma estação meteorológica em todos os distritos do país. Excelências, explorando a era digital na gestão do risco de catástrofes, devemos aproveitar o poder de dados, de inteligência artificial e de outras ferramentas para podermos melhorar a nossa capacidade de prevenir, preparar e responder a catástrofes de forma mais eficiente e atempada. Eu aproveito esse espaço para comunicar e convidar a todos os países africanos e todos os nossos parceiros neste sentido de proteção da humanidade, que iremos organizar uma conferência internacional no mês de abril próximo, em cooperação com o IECSF nos Estados Unidos, em Washington, D.C., vai ter como tema principal a proteção da floresta de Miombo. É grande floresta que ocupa grande parte da zona da África Austral, estendendo-se até o Congo. E estamos, neste momento, a nos organizar e, por isso mesmo, gostaríamos que acompanhasse este processo, porque vai ser uma grande oportunidade para nós protegermos a humanidade através da floresta de Miombo. Para terminar, gostaria de exortar aos Estados-membros, aos parceiros de desenvolvimento e à comunidade internacional em geral para apoiarem o programa AMEOAS com recursos financeiros e técnicos para acelerar a construção de resiliência e reduzir as perdas causadas por desastres para cumprir a nossa meta até 2030. Vamos todos reafirmar o nosso compromisso em continuar a trabalhar para uma África mais resiliente e não tem que ser obra daqueles que nós elegemos ou escolhemos para estar em frente das missões da África. Tem que ser uma obra de nós todos e um compromisso de todos os países. Vamos trabalhar de mãos dadas para superar os desafios que temos para frente e criar um futuro onde estaremos melhor preparados para evitar mais e maiores danos e perdas causados pelos desastres. Tenho estado a dizer aos meus homólogos presidentes, sim, vamos às conferências, vamos às palestras, mas temos que ter uma ação concreta, específica, nos nossos países e no nosso continente. Cada um, quando acorda, nasce, tem que pensar o que o meu país fez para resolver esse problema. Apoio, sim, parcerias, sim, mas nós temos que ter um compromisso, cada um, cada dirigente, e isso só vai ser possível com um compromisso político enorme. Pela atenção que me foi dispensada, eu agradeço. Obrigado.
Vou convidar. Muito obrigada, Excelência Presidente, pela vossa perspectiva como que é campeão dessa causa de gestão de catástrofe natural. E gostaria também de aproveitar essa oportunidade, Excelência, para convidá-lo para fazer o lançamento do relatório bienal sobre o risco de catástrofe natural. Excelência, outra vez, e gostaria também de convidar a Sua Excelência, Presidente da Comissão da União Africana, para vos acompanhar neste lançamento do nosso relatório. Muito obrigada.
Minhas senhoras, meus senhores, como disse durante a minha intervenção, nós tivemos momentos muito longos da elaboração do relatório para podermos ver o que fizemos e o que não fizemos. Este tem sido o método da União Africana, avaliar para poder perspectivar com alguma lógica. Então, fez-se o balanço portanto, o segundo relatório, neste caso do biênio 2019-2020, levou tempo. Faço neste momento apenas para agradecer a todos que trabalharam a partir da União Africana neste trabalho, em coordenação com Moçambique, neste caso concreto, como estamos a liderar a iniciativa. Mas, mais uma vez, agradecer e dizer que é um instrumento que estamos a lançar que merece o seu seguimento. Se nós quisermos trabalhar com evidências científicas, precisamos de analisar aquilo que fazemos para podermos definir o que temos que fazer em diante. Esta é uma obra concreta da União Africana de que aquilo que se diz até 2030, a partir de COPs em COPs, e mesmo dos compromissos de Paris, a União Africana tem sido responsável em tentar concretizar aquilo que foi decidido. E aqui está lançado, portanto, o sinopse, que é o relatório bienal 2019-2020. Felicitações à União Africana.
Muito obrigada, Presidente. Merci beaucoup, mon Président. Ça, c'est du concret, c'est du vrai. Et je dédie ça au Président, au champion, et le Président de la Commission, Moussa Faki. Notre commission, la Commission Moussa Faki, produit des rapports. Et ça, ce sont des rapports scientifiques. Vraiment, encore une fois, nous sommes contents parce qu'ici, il y a les faits, il y a la science qui parle. Donc, vraiment, je félicite aussi mon équipe qui est là pour le travail accompli. Et voilà le premier rapport sur la situation des catastrophes naturelles dans notre continent. Je vous remercie. I don't know if President Nyusi still has the time. I would like to invite, I don't know if Ethiopia is here to showcase about the way they are mitigating the impact of DDR. Ethiopia? Because I have them in the program. In the interest of time, let us go to the next panel, which is increased financing for AMEWA's program, a pathway to accelerate resilience, building, and reduction of this disaster loss. With this, let me start first of all by calling Mr. Petit Tahas, WMO Secretary General, to come and share your experience and your program. We've been working together, and you have the floor. Over to you.
I am going to chair one section more, but my people are still here.
You guys doing great work so far.
So, dear participants, it's a pleasure to be here, and we noticed that less professional people were leaving the room, and the most serious friends of early warning services were staying here. So, thanks for thanks for that. I'd like to thank African Union, especially Commissioner Sacco, for hosting us here and organizing this event. And from WMO's side, we have had excellent cooperation with African Union Commission and especially with Commissioner Sacco during the past years. And we are dealing with weather, climate, and water issues, and we are also the host agency of IPCC. And we have started publishing also reports on the status of climate in Africa, and where we have shown that Africa is very vulnerable to impacts of climate change and growing amount of disasters that you have been also facing. We just published yesterday status of climate report, where we saw that this year is going to be the warmest year on record. We are already at 1.4 degrees warming, and we have started seeing a growing amount of disasters. There has been threefold increase of disasters in Africa, and an eight times increase of economic losses during the past 50 years. And we know that the economies of African countries, they are hit much more than the rich countries. In rich countries, when a disaster hits a country, there may be up to 1% drop of the GDP, whereas in African countries we have seen economic losses between 10 and 20% when the disaster hits. In island states we have seen even several hundreds of percents of losses. And this negative trend in weather patterns will continue until 2060, independent of our success in mitigation. And if we are successful, we could limit the warming to Paris 1.5 to 2 degrees in 2060s. And we have already lost the sea level rise game and the melting of glaciers game. And one of our main initiatives, which we got the mandate from Secretary General Guterres 1.5 years ago, is early warning services for all. And we have started working together with our partner organizations, UNDRR, ITU, and Red Cross Red Croissant. And our aim is to mobilize altogether $3.1 billion by the end of 27. And the aim is that we would cover all African countries with proper early warning services. We would improve the basic observing systems through this soft program that already many countries are financing, and we are also very happy to collaborate with the African Union Commission and also recognize that there's the centralized disaster risk reduction facility that has been established there. But besides that, there has to be strong emphasis on the national meteorological and hydrological services, where the need is huge. And we are lucky that many countries have allocated resources for that purpose, and we are promoting North-South cooperation and also South-South cooperation. Together with Secretary General Guterres, we have already chosen 30 countries where we have started the work, and the key issue is that we bring the national meteorological services, hydrological services, disaster management authorities, resident coordinators, and also the high government officials on board, and together we can make this a success story. And we are grateful for those governments which already have been recognizing that it makes sense to invest in meteorological and hydrological services. And at this COP, there will be this loss and damage issue approved. And from our perspective, the smartest thing is to avoid loss and damage by investment in early warning services, where you're getting the money back at least tenfold that you invest in those fields. Tomorrow we will have a meeting with Secretary General Guterres to discuss early warning services for all and its progress. And so far it seems that, for example, Green Climate Fund has decided to allocate €1 billion for this purpose, and the aim is that by the end of 27 we would cover 100 countries, and it's mostly African countries, Pacific and Caribbean SIDS countries that we are we are dealing with. And we are also interested in getting some financing from the host country of COP28. We have had serious discussions with the government of Arab Emirates to support the development of early warning services in your countries. With these words, thanks for the opportunity to address you, and thanks for coming to this event. Thank you.
Thank you, SG, for your brilliant presentation and very insightful and a lot of information. I don't know if the Minister of Environment and Energy of Italy is around. Italy? He was supposed to deliver his own experience, and we would like to thank Italy, because if you have the IMEWAS, is thanks to Italy that supported us in establishing the Situation Room. So I would like to thank Italy, even in the absence here, but I'm sure for record purposes, you will know that we appreciate the support we got from Italy. When we go to African Union headquarters, please go to the old building and you will see the Situation Room that we have. And we are really performing, because we send reports twice a week to our missions, the representative of African Union member states, the ambassadors. We send them twice a week the report, and they send it to the capital. So it's very instrumental, like President News was saying, that it's really very important instrument that we have to have. I remember in February when we had the summit in Addis Ababa. President Nyusi went to visit the Situation Room, and he saw an alert of Frederick in our Situation Room. And he told the Minister of Foreign Affairs, "You can stay, I will go because my people are dying." So he left the meeting, he did not attend. So to say how instrumental that Situation Room is really, giving service to our member states. And he even told me, because I take it as a joke, he said, "I'm not very worried about the cyclone, Frederick. Because men, when they go, they don't destroy. But when the name is a lady, it destroys like either a cyclone." So I keep on, remembering what he said. He said, "I'm not very worried about Frederick. He's not going to do a lot of, a lot of damage. But a woman, when is cyclone Rose or Ida, you people, I don't know what you have, madam, but you destroy everything." It's just to give a joke from the president, our champion. So the next speaker, I think I will invite Mr. Marco Massambo, Program Director, CIMA Research Foundation. Over to you. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a very an honor to be here. I'm Italian, so I have a small representation of what we are partnering with. I want really to thank the African Union Commission for having us here, UNDRR and the government of Mozambique for the trust in what we are doing together. I think we are really trying to make a change. The risk landscape is getting more and more complicated. There are several factors that are complicating the risk landscape. The climate is definitely one of them, but also the socioeconomic development of our society. Our society are rapidly changing the risk, changing the exposure, changing the vulnerability, changing the coping capacity of our institution. And this one is bringing a lot of challenges to all our organizations. They are involved in the early warning system. So we need to keep the attention on all this change and try to innovate, try to adapt our tools and technologies to a complex system that it is evolving. More and more data and information are also available. We have several organizations producing on a regular basis
data and information. We have a good understanding of on the health science. Information that are coming from technical and scientific institution that goes from the national level to the regional level. We have been talking about the climate center, the regional specialized meteorological center, the continental institution, and also the global level are systematically producing risk information that is a big value for our early warning system. Of course, there is a challenge to improving, and Professor Talas was mentioning also many of the efforts that WMO is putting to improving, observing, and forecasting system around the world. But I want to highlight that transforming this scientific data and information that can then use by different national authority, by regional authority, by continental authority, to take decision for their specific mandate, to the national authority to warn the population, to the continental and regional authority to help their organs to be more prepared in case the country has needs. And MOS is exactly what it's trying to do. It's a network of different centers from the continental to the regional, and the national level is on the way, that exchange data and information on what can happen and what is happening in terms of the climate, of the weather, of the hydrological information, but more also importantly on the impact and the needs the country has in overcoming the disasters. And this one is doing at the operational level, connected with the technological platform that we have developed in Shima Foundation. Its name, I know, is a bit difficult to pronounce. It's by the Wetra. It's an open source software that we start to develop with the Italian Civil Protection, and the Italy decide also to include as part of this collaboration with the UNDRR and the African Union. This platform collects thousands and thousands of data coming from multiple institutions, coming for institutions at continental, global level, regional level, and I think now is the time, and we were discussing before, to have a full integration also the national system, and the knowledge that the national system has that should be introduced on operational level also in MOS. We have example of the implementation of this platform that also supports the assessment of the impact, bringing information from Met services, from hydrological services, integrated with exposure and vulnerability, trying to give to the Disaster Risk Management Authority also the estimation of what can happen in terms of impact in the real situation. We have example of this platform in other also initiative with the World Meteorological Organization in the Volta region in Southeast Asia, but I will say that MOS is definitely one of the initiatives that is fully using this technology. Technology, I always say, is more a dress than the body, and the body is more the institution, and the technology need to adapt to the body, not the other way around. And that's why this technology is providing the flexibility to really adapt to the context that we are looking at. And this technology is really means for improving the coordination at the operational level between the Disaster Risk Management Authority, the Meteorological Services, the Climate Center, the Hydrological Center, and so on. This year we'll also try to start with the drought monitoring and forecasting. But that's how the rule, I think, should have the technology. The technology need to adapt to the context. And this one, I think, is really one of the big challenges that we are having at us. When we face emergency or where we are close to emergency, even simple task becomes difficult, and the time is essential. And that's also where the technology play a big role in supporting all these organizations to speak the same language, to look at the same practical products and the forecasting and the monitoring products. And that is also one of the really advantages that this platform has,
that those communities can really speak the same language and make sure that even the simple task stays simple, does not escalate to become more difficult. EMOAS is also supporting countries that are in need. We have an initial discussion with the Director Nyamben on the support for Sudan and ICPAC as well, how EMOAS can support those countries that are in humanitarian needs and what kind of information can provide to humanitarian actors that are in that difficult situation. EMOAS is also using the platform not only for the operational tool, but also as a capacity building tools, as the tools that can support the country to really improve this coordination between the three agencies at the operational level, to improve the data information exchange at an operational level. Any country can have access to EMOAS platform as part of the initiative, can start plugging also their own data set and use for the operational work. I just want to say a few conclusions in this case. That there is a wealth of information and knowledge that is still there in the country that we are not detecting with EMOAS Center. There are a lot of scientific institutions that are producing risk information that can be beneficial to have a better understanding of what is the future that we need to face. At this one, I will say that technology can help, and what we need to focus in the next years to really improve the operational integration of those risk information, into the EMOAS system. The President Nyusi was mentioning that we need to go to the conference and then start to do something at the operational level, something concrete. So I think that EMOAS is really what it's doing. It's inspiring country, is providing some of the solution, and so be sure that Chima Foundation, our researcher, our technical people will be on the side of African Union, Commission, UNDRR, and WMO, and all the country for the implementation of early warning for all in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marco, for these insightful presentations and for value technology. Like you said, and you said it rightly, technology needs to adapt to the concept, not the other way around. So we have to really make sure that whatever we do, we have the right technology to address the problem. Technology helps us also, in this gathering, to talk in one voice because the data are uniformly treated through the technology. And also one area that we'd be interested to continue partnering with you is how can EMOAS can support countries in humanitarian needs. We saw when there was an issue in Morocco, what happened in Morocco, the earthquake, and also in Libya with the flood. So I think we should need to really strengthen our situation room through your own experience, and then we work together. So we need also to be more concrete, like President Nyusi said. I believe more on action than meetings. Meetings will not drive us anywhere because we know the problem and we know the solution. Let us come with real showcase, and then with that, I think we can go. So I think I have a demand of the head of the disaster management of Nigeria, who wants to showcase and share the experience. But just 1 or 2 minutes, because we're about to finish. There will be another side event here. Thank you. And I still have, I'm not seeing my sister Ahuma here. I don't know if she has a representative. She was here, but she's left. Maybe she has another pressing agenda. And Mr. Amjad from UNDRR. Is he here? Okay, before I give the Nigerian, I will give to this institution. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I hope you can hear me. Excellency Ambassador Joseph Asako, it's a pleasure to partner with you and to say a few words on behalf of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction, Mami Mizuturi, who could not be here today. I observe all protocols, first of all. I think, without getting technical, I wanted to mention that the AMHIWAS program, which is the Africa Multi-Hazard Early Warning and Early Action System, which we fondly call AMHIWAS, is really illustrates a behavioral change in Africa when it comes to disaster management. I think it illustrates the fact that there's a strong recognition, political buy-in to move from the disaster response mode to disaster risk management. And it's very, I think the AMHIWAS program clearly illustrates that at the continental level, and there are many, many good examples that we've heard from Mozambique, His Excellency the President, on how that shift in behavior has moved to the national level. The idea behind the AMHIWAS program was really a result of the 2019 aftermath of the 2019 Idai cyclone that brought together a lot of the member states in Africa to reiterate the need to establish a continental multi-hazard early warning, early action system. This led to an informal agreement among member states, African Union, UNDRR, and some UN agencies, as well as countries, to develop what we called the roadmap for improving availability and access and use of disaster risk reduction information for early warning and early action, and also to use that for transboundary risk management. And then under the leadership, the strong leadership of the African Union, the development of the Africa Multi-Hazard or AMHIWAS program was achieved and adopted also at the member states level. So the AMHIWAS program really represents a very significant step towards achieving the goals of the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, and also achieving the UN's Secretary General's call to ensure that every person worldwide is protected by early warning systems. So under the AMHIWAS program, a continental multi-hazard early warning network is almost complete. The Commissioner mentioned the Situation Room in the African Union, but there are 3 others also in IGAD, ICPAC, ECOWAS, and as well as one that's going on in ACMAD in Niger, and finally work is underway to establish at ECAS in Central Africa. So this is an ambitious 7-year program. It has a vision, it has objectives for long-term strengthening of multi-hazard early warnings in Africa. So this is important because countries with multi-hazard early warning systems have disaster death rates that are 8 times lower than countries without. And we know that the warning of just 24 hours can reduce ensuring damage by up to 30%. So despite these benefits, in Africa, only 40% of the countries have multi-hazard early warning system or reported to have multi-hazard early warning systems. And in many instances, disaster financing focuses only on response rather than on prevention and recovery. So investing in disaster risk reduction saves lives, it saves money, and it also future-proofs development gains. So the business case is clear, and investing in prevention is important in mitigating losses in lives and property. So early warning system can only deliver the anticipated benefits if parts of the end-to-end system are adequately maintained, meaning that it's not just what happens in the situation room, but the impact that's happening on the ground. Does it reach that communication to the most vulnerable and those who most need it? So we at UNDRR will be continue to support many countries to establish even national setups to support early warning at the national level. We work with colleagues such as African Union Commission, the REX, as well as, of course, partners such as the WMO. And we'll make sure that we work through to support the AMHIWAS rollout in countries such as Kenya, Ethiopia, Namibia, and Tanzania, where work has already begun. So the next step It's important to note that all of this is done through the general support of the government of Italy, and this includes some of the work that we'll be doing will include reviewing legislation for early warning, making sure that coordination is in place, making sure that standard operating procedures clarify the chain of commands and the tasks and responsibilities. So I think it's finally just to conclude that we are committed to supporting in the mobilization of resources to support Africa and its countries to strengthen anticipatory action. And we do look forward to partnering with the development partners as well as early warning stakeholders in 2024. And it's important that, that member states, donors, development partners establish or financing mechanism to contribute to the achievement of the AMHIWAS and deliver on the commitments and to support delivering on the commitments that were made as part of the loss and damage that we heard over earlier today or yesterday. So thank you, Commissioner, Ambassador. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother Amjad, for really highlighting the importance of AMHIWAS, early warning and early action, multi-hazards, early warning and early action on the continent. We believe that together, with working together, we reach our goal and we reduce this type of risk. Because we really want to do management, early warning and early action management of these risks so that we will not lose human life and also production life. With this, let me invite Madame, the head of the disaster management, to share her experience with us from Nigeria. Is she? Here is Madame. I don't want to go further.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the need for increased financing of early warning system in Africa has become highly inevitable considering the high-level vulnerability of some of the countries that requires access to early warning alerts that can be downscaled to large populations living in massive swaths of rugged landmass. Also, poor internet connectivity and inadequate technology for early warning information dissemination have called for the need for increased financing of Africa multi-hazard early warning and early action system program. For us at Nigeria, our approach to early warning system is multi-stakeholding involving relevant government institutions. This includes the National Emergency Management Agency, the Nigeria Meteorological Agency, the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency, the Institute of Peace Conflict Resolution, amongst others. This has led to the development of multi-hazard early warning system for Nigeria, which reflects the country's hazard scenario consisting of annual flood, boat mishaps, building collapse, urban and market fires, windstorms, banditry, farmers, pastoralist conflicts, and epidemics. There is no doubt the complex hazard situations requires enhanced financing to enable it meet up the desired goals. The layers of funding range from observations and monitoring, forecasting, analysis of data, alert dissemination, downscaling and monitoring of level of compliance to early actions. Within the Greater West Africa sub-region, there is the ECOWAS Regional Disaster Operations Center in Abuja. Nigeria, in line with the Program for Continental Coordination, Early Warning and Action Systems in Africa. The center is established to strengthen regional coordination for improving forecasting and exchange of data and information for effective and efficient disaster risk management among member states in the West African sub-region. This initiative was facilitated by the Italian government through the Italian Civil Protection, UNDRR, and CIMO Foundation as part of the enhanced financing for the systems for the region. We require more assistance in the sub-region. The West African sub-region, being part of the Sub-Saharan Economic Group, is faced with different hazard scenarios characterized with fragile ecosystem and economy. There is serious threat to human population wildlife, the environment, infrastructure, and livelihoods. These have undermined community resilience to shocks and stress with varying degree on demographic structure of the zone consisting of women, children, the elderly, people living with disabilities, and other vulnerable groups. Based on the graphic above, management of disaster risk cannot actualize without efficient and effective coordination of early warning systems anchored on increased financing. Early warning in Nigeria also takes into consideration indigenous structures at the community level in order to ensure that everyone is covered with early warning actions. The local structures need to be refined and modernized to meet current realities in areas of effectiveness and efficiency. This calls for enhanced financing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm fully convinced that today's event will avail us the opportunity to network and seek for areas of mutual support and collaboration between partners across Africa and global community. I sincerely thank and appreciate all partners and individuals that facilitated this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manager, for sharing your experience with us on early warning and early action in Nigeria. So I think we have gone through, because there's another event that is going to happen. Let me just wrap up and close this section. So I would like to thank President Nyusi for his commitment as a champion of disaster risk management and for advancing the early warning agenda on the continent. I will also wish to appreciate all partners for your support to the AMEWAS program. This is our program, Africa Leads, made in Africa, but you are working with us. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be, because if we had waited for partners to come and establish, they did establish, but that was our program, and they came, they assisted. Italy came, they assisted, and we are working together because we knew the need of this important situation room. When we had Idai cyclone that hit Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Malawi, at the African Union, we have a unit of disaster risk reduction. We didn't have capacity, we didn't have the technology to support our member states. We felt so, like we cannot come and rescue our own continents when they have this hazard. So I happened to be invited by NATO to go to Bilbao for a workshop on migration and also humanitarian issues. And then I visited their headquarters, and I saw the early warning system. And I told him, we are just coming from IDI experience. How can you support us to have this type of information so that we can work with our member states? That's the way NATO, where he said that they are not financing institution, but they will identify one of the members of NATO to come and support African Union. That's the way Italy accepted to finance this early warning with $5 million for us to establish this important instrument that we have. So to say that it's good to work with partners, and when partners knows what is our needs and they come to help, and we are saving lives, we are saving crop productions in the continent. So I also like to call on the partners not to relent in supporting the MEWAS program, which is key to reduce disaster loss by 2030. This is our target. By 2030, we really want to reduce disaster risk, because when you have the information, you can rescue, when a cyclone or something, even pest, because in our own situation room, we want also to see in terms of agriculture, when the pests are coming to invade, the invasive species are going to come, like we had the fall army worm, and we had the cricket in the Horn of Africa. So all these instruments are very important for us to plan and to do preparedness in the department. They need to mobilize there is a need to mobilize $300 million to support implementation of AMEWA's program, because we want to have the AMEWAs in all the regions, the 5 regions, the RECs of the 5 regions. And we also want to have this program in all the 55 member states of Africa. I thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.
So the Great Blue Wall is very much about improving the participation in the value chain by fisheries entrepreneurs in African countries. And the other aspect is that reinforcing marine protected areas allows for the health of that fishery to be improved and seeing long-term gains as well in terms of their ability and the sustainability of the stocks. Also, the development of activities around ecotourism provides an opportunity, often which is additional, for livelihoods and entrepreneurship to be developed. To conclude, I would also like to touch upon the financing mechanisms which are critical to allow the Great Blue Wall to succeed. So firstly, we must recognize that more grant financing is required to unleash the opportunity for adaptation. This is something which has been very clear in the African Common Position. It has been very clearly expressed by African heads of state and by negotiators. But in addition, we do need to unlock the opportunity for private finance to get engaged, in addition to those requirements that come from Green Climate Fund funding or from funding which hopefully will also be flowing from the newly established Loss and Damage Fund. In terms of this private finance, what are the opportunities? Firstly, through the use of de-risking instruments, we can create vehicles to support local entrepreneurs. This can be through local development banks, where you have soft loans that are linked to the development of the fisheries sector or ecotourism sectors, for example. Secondly, the development of carbon credit markets and the unleashing of the opportunity of blue carbon is something which is worth considering. And if we recognize that mangroves, for example, have a higher sequestration potential than tropical rainforest, it gives us a very interesting entry point. But when we recognize the deeper opportunity around seagrasses and around the broader potential of marine protected areas for the generation of carbon credits, we can see that the potential can be accelerated even further. And in addition, we must also look at the opportunity for African countries to be involved in, for example, domestic bond issuances, green bonds and blue bonds, all of which are raising resources which can be further invested in sustainable value chains in our region. The final point I will say is that the Great Blue Wall is built on the principle of community leadership. It starts with projects which are valuable for those that are on the front line of climate change. And it's those projects that will make or break whether this initiative will succeed or not. We have every confidence that there is a real sense of not only of leadership, but there are real projects in these countries which are ready to be financed and to be developed further. So with those few words of introduction on the Great Blue Wall process, we look forward to hearing further ideas on how to develop it, and we look forward as well to broadening the Great Blue Wall beyond the Western Indian Ocean area, covering also West Africa and the Atlantic. Thank you very much, and we look forward to the discussions and deliberations. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Jean-Paul. So now we would like to get remarks from the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Costa Rica, who is very interested in this particular topic. And it's really interesting to hear perspectives of policymakers at that level. So much welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Excellencies, distinguished participants. I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica, a country in Central America, just north of Panama for your orientation. We're a small country, 52,000 square kilometers and 5.2 million inhabitants, but very much involved in environmental topics internationally, and especially now all measures regarding the fight against climate change. I'm very honored to join you today here, Now, more than ever, we can see the direct link between the ocean and climate and the importance of supporting a strong international blue agenda to collaboratively tackle the threats of the ocean's health. The challenges we face for the implementation of the International Ocean Agenda, including the 30 by 30 goal or the BBNG agreement, are huge, considering the resource mobilization needed. In this regard, as part of our commitment to the Sustainable Development Goal 14 on life below water, Costa Rica, together with France, is honored to have been appointed by the United Nations General Assembly as co-hosts of the third United Nations Ocean Conference, UNOC, to be held in Nice, France in the year 2025. We are convinced this next conference will give the world a new opportunity to make real and concrete progress in implementing SDG 14 and other international ocean protection goals on three particular pillars. First, to advocate for the success of multilateral processes directly or indirectly related to the ocean. Second, mobilize and increase funding, including through the development of new financial mechanisms. And third, strengthen and better diffuse knowledge related to ocean science for science-based comprehensive decision-making. On the way towards UNOC 3, Costa Rica will host on June 7th and 8th of next year, 2024, a high-level event on ocean action, Immersed in Change, where governments and a wide participation of stakeholders will be invited to share best practices and successful experiences for the sustainable use of the ocean, to continue building strategic alliances, to extend the alliances around the ocean agenda. We take this opportunity to extend a special invitation to have important African participation in the event in Costa Rica. Within this event, we will also promote the adoption of a declaration of peace for the ocean, a global call to protect, restore, and conserve the ocean and fulfill the global commitments to improve its governance, so we can give the planet and the ocean a breath. Excellencies, we congratulate your region for the outcomes of the Africa Climate Summit recently held in Kenya, and we recognize your leadership and the visionary project to accelerate the regenerative blue economy